Yeah.
whether you're in your, 50s or whether you're in your 20s, being secure in who God has created you to be first is obviously most important. But then getting into that season of life where, like you said, a lot of people think, well, now it's retirement. Now I just got to kind of, relax and pull back. And it's like, well, no, like you don't have to. Actually, you can be more productive in this season than maybe you even were in the seasons before. So I would think really encouraging people that you still have more to give. There's more to take. In fact, I would even say it like this. There are younger people who need you. There are people who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s who desperately need, and we use the word mentor, but just need someone to kind of look to go, hey, how did y'all make this work?
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 29 of the Age of Lions podcast. We're so glad you're here today. As you heard at the top there, we have an amazing couple as our guests today, Mychal and Terri Smith from the ministry Adventure Together. And they're here to talk about how to get together as a couple and plan for your year, to get together on finances, to get together on vision, to get together on goals. And they do these incredible retreats where they take couples out and kind of get them away from everything and really focus on how to plan and kind of get together in God's will as they're kind of getting their year together. And we're so excited to have them today. I think it's going to be really, really helpful. Whether you're a couple or just an individual, either way, I think the principles they're going to share are really going to help you as you think about how to look ahead and set goals for what God's doing in your life and how to get ready for the year in front of you. And this is the perfect time to do that. So it's going to be an amazing interview. Hey, before we get into that, I just want to remind you to like, subscribe, follow on whatever channel you're consuming the content here, whether you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on one of the podcast platforms. Make sure to let us know on that platform that you're plugged in, you're tuned in, you're checking it out every week. And then also, if you haven't already done so, I want to encourage you to go to ageoflions.com. That's our homepage, and there's a lot of information on there about the podcast, about upcoming episodes. And we would love for you to get on our list so we know about you. We're able to communicate with you directly, send you some updates from time to time, let you know what's coming up, some special things that we're working on. And we'd love for you to join the community there. We really want to be able to hear from you as well and know how you're consuming the podcast, how you're enjoying it, what you like and don't like, what you'd like to see us do different or better, or some guests you'd like to see on, because this is very much a community and we'd love to invite you to be part of that. So before we get into anything else, I want to get into this interview. So welcome Mychal and Terri Smith. Hey, Mychal and Terri Smith, how are you guys?
We're doing great, Mark.
Fantastic. How are you?
I am so good. It's so good to see you guys on here. We've been trying to make this happen for a couple months and working around holidays and Christmas and all the things. And so now we are finally in the new year with lots of free time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tons of free time.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're so grateful to be here.
Well, we're honored that you said yes and so grateful that you guys are here. So we were kind of joking beforehand about, let me start with this, how I know you guys. So we all go to church together. Mychal and I have had the privilege of being on staff together, me on one side of the organization, him on the other, but have known each other for a long time in different and varying kind of roles. And why don't you guys tell them a little bit about what you do, Mychal and Terri, and then talk about your ministry too, just so they have a little bit of an idea of who you guys are.
Yeah. So, we get the opportunity to pastor. We're part of the Church of the Highlands Grandview campus. And so I get to oversee all things small groups and pastoral care, and also serve as an adjunct professor at Highlands College. And so my wife and I have been serving in ministry together for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at home with our children now. But prior to that, I served as production coordinator. I have a company, and that's pretty much what I did. I worked with a local cinematographer here, and we spent lots of good years together working on lots of different projects. I think the last thing I worked on with them was probably the World Games. And that was a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Yeah. Terri, I didn't know that about you. That's the world I'm into with creative and our agency. And I might have to hit you up as a producer.
All right. I'm ready.
Can always use a good producer.
Yeah.
Sure.
So super fun. And tell us a little bit about your ministry that you guys do, that kind of while we're here today. Talk about that a little bit. Just give us some background.
Absolutely. We kind of from the very beginning of our marriage, the Lord just started opening doors for us to be able to pour into other couples, particularly young couples who are engaged or newly married.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, we just kind of saw it as just something that we enjoyed doing together.
That was like our thing.
Yeah, it was
together.
our thing. Yeah. We both knew that we weren't called to do the same thing at all times, but we knew that for sure that was the one thing that we felt like the Lord uniquely brought us together to do and gifted us to do together. And so it was 2020, January of 2020.
The year.
We were doing, it was the year, January of 2020. We were doing our personal, just our annual, vision retreat, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. But we were doing our vision retreat and we had such a phenomenal time. We were up in the mountains, up in Mentone, Alabama. Just had a beautiful time, beautiful time. And we were actually on our way home and we both just kind of started talking. And I believe it was Terri who kind of initiated this idea of, hey, what if we started actually being intentional about this with some of the couples that are in our life, some of the couples that we know? Yeah,
the thought just occurred to me. I just wondered how many other couples were taking the time to invest in their marriage and their lives at that level. And I mean, when we started out, we were not, we were like so rigid, but it's so much more fluid and fun now. But we just wondered how many other couples are missing this small little key that makes a big difference.
Yeah. And so we kind of put together this list of about 5 or 6 couples that we knew and that we felt like, this might be something that could benefit them. And we reached out and we're starting to plan. And then, of course, March 2020 happened and the world started just kind of, coming unhinged. And so we kind of put it on the back burner until things started to open back up and people started to kind of get back into a normal rhythm of things. And about 2 years ago, we started really dreaming about, I feel like it's time to really get back and try this again. And so last year we started having official retreats with Adventure Together is what we call our ministry, Adventure Together Marriage and Family. And so we're excited about the retreats that we have done and ones that are coming up. And so we can talk a little bit more about that. But our goal really is just to help couples to be intentional about their time together from a planning aspect, but also from a fun and adventure aspect as well.
Yeah. Our goal is to help couples to build their marriage and strengthen it for whatever lies ahead. We want to help them to connect and to gain a shared purpose and to play. That's a really big ingredient is to have fun together.
And we even called it Adventure Together for that reason, that idea of, man, when you get married, there's no way of just planning out every single thing. You have to be flexible and understand that it is an adventure, that there are going to be challenges, there are going to be detours, there are going to be unforeseen things that you come in contact with, and you just have to figure out how to navigate it together. And so that's what we've kind of based how we help couples out of, just this idea of, man, it's going to be an adventure. And it's going to be crazy at times and a little scary at times, but also it can be a lot of fun. And you can have a lot of growth moments together.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's what we really want to kind of get into today. I know we were trying to kind of get this around the beginning of the year as people, kind of go into the year and do planning and things like that. But I always believe God's timing is perfect. So I think now is exactly the right time for this talk. And maybe for people who've kind of gone through, when this comes out, it'll probably early February. And so, maybe they've gone through the first month and they're like, we're not set up well. Maybe we need to rethink going into the year. So I know what we're going to talk about today is going to be really helpful. And my wife and I really believe in this. We haven't been able to get away every year. We've done it a few times where we'll go to the beach or go somewhere and really have a several days of intentional planning. And then some years with family and like our grown kids come in and out. It's hard sometimes around the end of the year to get away. But we just have tried to adapt. And it's not like this year. It was very piecemeal. We just had a lot of little conversations around other events, trying to get on the same page with whether it was a word for the year or whether it was, goals that we have as individuals or as a couple. But you're 100% right. Like every year, you just never know. You never know what's gonna happen with, even when you think like this year for us is interesting because we have, my first grandchild is going to be born, in the next couple of weeks.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe by the time this comes out, he'll be here. She's due right around now, so we're just kind of waiting. And then Sarah, my wife's daughter, Sarah's getting married this year. overseas in England. So that's like this whole thing we're going to go do. And you just never know what all's going to happen around those things or what's going to come of it. But there is always fun things that are popping up for.
Yeah, I just want to say, piggyback off of something you just said about like you felt like it was kind of piecemeal together, even though you weren't able to get away. I mean, we've had to do that too, and just keeping that part of your lives as one of the top priorities is really, really important, because you don't want to let those important conversations just kind of drift on by.
It's really more about just being on the same page and being in alignment and having clarity between the two of you, on what it is that we are working towards. Because man, once the year gets going, you and I both know that things move fast, and you're working, you're hustling, you're trying to get things done, and before you know it, it's the end of the week, and then it's the end of the month, and and time just kind of moves on. And so if you Scripture says that if people don't have vision, they stumble all over themselves, right? And when you think about that, it's like, man, if you don't know where it is that you're going, man, life will pull you in all kinds of directions. And it's kind of like this out of control feeling. So really, it is just about being on the same page and communicating. And so, sometimes you do have to take those small moments and just be intentional, piece them together.
So we were joking around a little bit before we started recording about our ages, because I thought you guys were a little younger than you actually are, and most of our guests are in their 50s or 60s or 70s, because that's our target, and we're talking about aging. And so y'all are probably the youngest guests we've had so far.
Yes.
But you guys have a unique seat, and I'd love to hear from you kind of from that perspective, because you Mychal, as a pastor, and as you guys leading these retreats and taking couples out, and I know you do some young couples, but I would imagine you've had a few middle-aged or older couples go with you as well. And I just kind of love to know what your impression has been about that when you think ahead to your 50s and so forth. What do you think that's going to be like?
Yeah. So we're actually closer to 50 than we are to 40 at this point. But we are, honestly, I'm looking forward to it. In fact, I was talking about this the other day, when I was in my, 20s and I thought about 50, it was like, oh man, like that's, I'm going to be ancient, at that point, right? I'm basically a fossil. And, then you get to your 30s and then you're like, well, you kind of bag away from that a little bit. Now that I'm in my 40s, man, I'm actually kind of looking forward to that season of life. I feel like, each stage of life, whether you hit your 20s and you feel like, man, I'm grown. You're excited. I'm a grown up. I'm an adult, right? Yeah. And then you hit your 30s and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm an adult. I got responsibilities to take care of. And then you get into your 40s, and your 40s is, for me, once I crossed over that threshold, my mindset was more so looking ahead and then looking back, and really thinking about the next generation and thinking about legacy and making good use of the time that I have left. And so I expect that when I get into the 50s, that I'll, have that to an even greater level. And honestly, we're looking forward to just having fun together,
Listen, we're not slowing down.
We're not.
We're not. I feel like, for me, I feel like I am in a new book, right? Like, new chapter, nah. It's a new book. It's so exciting to be at this place, because I feel like the Lord is he's doing something different. And maybe it's just because I'm in a different season of life, but it's exciting. I feel like over the years, he's kind of helped me to see what most people might consider a midlife crisis. Maybe that's just him wanting to show us something different. And bring out some other gifts that we have. So we're not just settling in the things that are comfortable, that we're familiar with, but he's like, hey, there's more to this life, and this is what I want to show you. And so that is exciting, and it's fun for me, as much as fun can be, you know what I mean? That to me is an adventure. And so we adopted this terminology, this phrase of like, let's just see what the Lord's going to do.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what that's pretty much, that's what we live by.
Yeah.
That's really what happened last year when we started these retreats. Mark, it was January.
Yeah.
It was January. And we were thinking, when are we going to launch? Like, when are we going to start our retreats? Oh, it'll be sometime in 2025. Oh no, it was mid-March.
Yeah, when we officially had
it
the
was
first
mid-March, and we've been planners, like really big planners, which is good, but sometimes a little bit too rigid.
Yeah.
And for us to just jump in last year, it was exhilarating. It was fun.
Yeah, when she says we're
fun.
planners, essentially we can suffer from paralysis by analysis. Where we just analyze it and we want to plan it perfectly, and we feel great about executing once it's perfectly planned. And we just kind of got to a place last year where we just felt like the Lord was just saying, just go.
Yeah.
Proverbs 16:9 is my favorite verse in the entire Bible, and I live by it. And it says, man makes his plans, but the Lord directs his steps. And so that teaches us that it's great to plan. It's not a bad thing to plan, but as you go, you have to be willing to allow the Lord to direct you, to make some adjustments, to, send you in a route that maybe you weren't even expecting to go. But nevertheless, it's the place that he has for you. And so we stepped out in faith, and we're just like, let's just see what happens. And people started responding to it, and the retreats filled up, and we just had we just had an amazing experience. And so people started continuing to ask, hey, are y'all going to continue to do this? So we felt like that was the Lord's kind of encouragement through other people, that we needed to continue to offer these experiences for married couples.
Yeah. So it's new. It's a freshness for us. We are looking forward to the next 50 years. We're starting over. I feel like, but not really.
I plan on people, like you said, man, I thought y'all were in your 30s. I plan on people seeing us in our 60s and 70s going, man, I thought y'all were in your 40s or 50s. Like I want to look young, feel young, be active for as long as possible. And I think that's possible as long as the mindset is correct for people.
Yeah, 100%. I know when you and I ran into each other a couple of days ago, or I guess it was yesterday actually, and we were talking to Rex Davis, who's also been a guest on the podcast, talking about his book and all the things. And Rex has got us all beat. I think Rex is in his early 70s. And but it is mindset. It's 100% about what we choose to think, how we believe, what we're trusting God for. And I think that does influence all the other parts of our life for sure. And in your experience so far, what would you say is the biggest difference between a couple in their 30s, 20s or 30s, whatever, who go on one of your retreats, and a couple who might be in their 50s or older that go? What separates them in the sense of what they're thinking about, what they're looking at, and how they're kind of approaching things?
Yeah, Terri and I talked about this the other day. Couples in their 20s and 30s typically are in a much faster pace season of life in terms of figuring out career things. They've got smaller children typically. And so really, at that stage, it really is a fight for time. Yeah. It's a fight for prioritizing the things that matter most. And at the same time, realizing that time is slipping away. And so you only have a finite amount of days and years with your children before they leave and they're out on their own. And so it really is a balancing act. And so most of the younger couples are trying to figure out, okay, career things, business ideas, but also parenting, and at the same time, let's make sure we stay healthy. Like that's usually what we see. And then couples who, kind of are in that older space of life, because now they're either approaching the empty nest stage or in it already. It's different because now our time is going to look different because we don't have the responsibility of raising human beings. It's just you and I. Now we have to figure, what it looks like for you and I to stay healthy. And I would even say there's a difference between calling versus an assignment. And so I'll give you an example. In the Bible, the prophet Jonah, he was called to be a prophet. That's hardwired into who God created him to be. So he was going to be a prophet no matter what. But he had an assignment to go to Nineveh, to the people of Nineveh. Now, he wasn't called to stay there and set up camp. That was a part of his calling. It was an assignment. And our assignments can change from season to season. And so what we're typically seeing is couples who are a little bit older trying to figure out what the new assignment is. We had an assignment of being parents, and we're going to be parents for forever, but we're not parenting in this season because now they're older. Right. And maybe, the assignment was in a corporate job, but now we're kind of looking at retirement. And so now the assignment is going to change a little bit in terms of how I live out this calling and this purpose that the Lord has given me. And so that's typically what we see in terms of the different seasons of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, that's a big part of what we talk about on here is because we're really trying to really encourage and challenge people who are 50s, 60s, 70s, et cetera, to really consider the fact that you're not done, you're not finished, you're not wrapping it up. You're not going down, but let's go up. Like what's next? What's the more that we can accomplish? Because of that stage of life, there is hopefully more resources, more time, maybe a little bit more money in the bank. Maybe you got definitely more a life experience, hopefully some more wisdom. And it's like, how can we use this to benefit other people? We had a guest on a few weeks ago. He talked about retirement is really, that word is kind of about shrinking back. And we don't want to retire. We want to advance. How do we do more? Because I really believe that these generations now, because over 100 million people in the U.S. are over 50, so like a full third of the population. And when you think about the believers in that space and what we could bring to bear on the kingdom with these resources, all the things that are at our disposal, it's exciting to think about what's possible. And I know, we talk a lot even at our church, talk a lot about the next generation, and that's hugely important and a major priority. And as the parent of a 15-year-old, I'm all about that 100% and my grandchildren and so forth. But also want to say, yes, that's great. And this older generation can also do a lot, and we're not done. Yeah. And we have a lot to bear helping the new generation. And what is God calling us to do in our own space for sure. When you guys have your retreats and you take people away, talk a little bit about what that looks like and what do they experience when they get away with you guys and go on one of these retreats?
I'll let you start.
Yeah. So one of the main things is that we have found, even just for us, that fun is necessary. All right. Sometimes we just take things a little bit too seriously. And so we try to brighten that up. When they arrive, that first evening on that Thursday evening is pretty much a hangout time. Right? You're hanging out with the other couples, and it's really it's a very small setting. And so there is space, there's time for couples to interact. And if a couple wants to just go and rest for the rest of the evening, they can do that. But there's a meal, we have a meal together, and then there's game night. That's pretty much how we start our vision retreat. We have to make sure that we have fun, and it's not just all about, business. So that's what we do on the night that everybody arrives. And then the next morning, the husbands will make breakfast. And then from there, we'll give them a little bit, we'll give them some guidance on, hey, this is what a vision retreat is. This is how we do ours. It's pretty much like a snapshot of what we do. And we just give them some guidelines to follow. And you want to talk about how we set them up for like worship and
so there's really just a format in place to help them kind of approach that morning. And so it begins after breakfast. There's a time, where you can have some worship and some prayer together, because we believe that the best place to start is spiritually, getting on the same page spiritually, and really just inviting the Lord into that moment. We can have some great ideas, but we want his ideas to be the ones that we actually do for our life. And so being with the time of having spiritual connection. And then after that, really just kind of jumping into a few key areas of your life. And for every couple, it's going to look a little different, but we kind of have, a few that are pretty standard across the board. I mean, every couple needs to talk about their finances and get on the same page financially and have some, financial goals and some things that you're working on, get some financial clarity. Every couple needs to talk about the calendar of what that year is going to look like. Hey, are we going to take any trips this year? Are we going to travel? Are we going to, what's on the calendar this year, right? If you have children in the house, then, talking about and planning for what does parenting look like in the season? What do we need to be focusing on in terms of how we spend our time and invest in each individual child, and if you have businesses or, ventures that you're going to be a part of together, we talk about business, we talk about our intimacy, together, our intimate life together.
Volunteering.
So it's every part of your life that's important enough to talk, like, let's talk about it. And so we give couples this time frame of, hey, between this time and that time, this is time to kind of talk, to connect. And then we make ourselves available after that time period for any couples that are having questions or, you know, they get to a place where they're having discussions and they can't agree on something and they just need an impartial, you know, party to listen and kind of help mediate. We make ourselves available for that because you need a moment where you can kind of go, okay, we've talked about it for 30 minutes and we're not agreeing. Let's bring someone else in. So we give couples that time frame to take a break and then kind of have some lunch and then maybe go back after lunch and finish up anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about, any loose ends. And then honestly, we kind of have a stop to the day at a certain point where we encourage them like, all right, now it's time to actually, you know, have a little bit more fun. Because for some couples, maybe, you know, things got a little more tense than they expected it to get, right? And so, you know, so let's go have a little bit of, let's go outside. Let's go, you know, explore nature or something of that sort.
Whatever they need after the planning part of the day is done, whatever they need to decompress or just to kind of, that's over, you know, that's a good time for them to do that.
Because as you can imagine, if a couple is doing this for the first time, you know, there's some anxiousness, probably there's some, you know, just, I'm unsure about how this is going to go. We've never actually talked in depth about this specific subject. And so there's all of these feelings that can be wrapped into it. And so we just want to make sure that there's time and space to kind of debrief, to breathe a little bit. And then on the next day.
Before you go there, we even think about this too, Mark, for couples that that may just be coming from they may have been holding on to something. This is a good time to just let's just air this out, right? Let's just talk about this. And that may be what they need in that time. And that's okay. That's totally okay.
And we encourage, we even say this, it's not about checking off every single thing. Like we talked about it all. Because you may get to a place where this is really the main thing that you need to talk about because this main thing is probably causing problems in all the other areas, right? And so it's like, it's not about just checking, you know, hey, we talked about this, we talked about that. It's like, hey, if you get to a place and you start talking about finances, for instance, and you realize, man, this is a big deal and this has caused a lot of tension, a lot of stress, a lot of strain. And let's lean into that one. And if all you leave with is you guys got on the same page about that, it probably is going to help make the rest of your year even better because you figured that
about
out.
That thing. And it gets better every time. Every time a couple goes to have their get away to have their retreat, it gets better. You know, that's what we learned over the years.
It's funny because I remember our first few vision retreats, we were, first off, we were just we're very organized people. And so we were way too organized and did not have enough fun.
No.
And then we even learned that setting matters. I remember one year we tried to do a vision retreat and our getaway, believe it or not, we thought that being in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia would be a great place to go to do a retreat. Let's just say that was probably the wildest one we've ever had. It may or may not have ended when we chasing a purse snatcher. Someone has snatched a purse outside of an Olive Garden and I'm trying to chase this guy down. But yeah, so we've had lots of adventures along the way. But the thing that I think I've learned the most is the connection is what matters. In fact, even our drive to wherever we're going, we've learned to make that intentional as well. So when we're in the car and we know it's a 2-hour drive or hour and a half, we kind of
start a little bit early.
We just start talking about things almost like preemptively, and it's just great connection time. And so it's really just about connecting together and getting on the same page together.
Yeah, you've talked a little bit about the environment and all the things like you said, Atlanta versus maybe somewhere more remote. What is what's the power in getting away? Like you could obviously you could create a document, you could give to couples, you could say, here's the 10 things you need to do together in your little time together. But why is it so vital? What's the value in getting away from home and getting away from kids and getting away? I mean, it's kind of a given, but I'd like to hear you kind of unpack it some because I know that's very intentional on your part.
Yes. So I like to think of it this way: out of sight, out of mind. Right?
Nice.
If I'm not seeing it, I don't have to think about it. And that's just kind of how my brain works. If I see it, I've got to do this. And then that leads to something else. And then and they all connect for women,
That's right.
But
men are, what do they say? Men are boxes and women are just one giant box.
Those wires start sparking everywhere. And then you can't focus. It's difficult. And especially if you have children, they're
Yeah.
mama, daddy, so that's a little bit different. Something else, to throw in the mix to try to, just tear yourself down and say, okay, we've got to really focus on this. But when you're in a place, maybe you're at a lake, or maybe you're at the beach, or honestly, maybe you're just at a hotel that's 30 or 40 minutes away, and you don't have that quick access. You actually have to work harder to get back to the thing that you want to tackle. So getting away is very important, and it's super helpful because you don't have those everyday distractions.
Yeah, and in this space of talking and planning together, you want to kind of really be more of like in a creative space, right? And we've all experienced it. You have all these creative ideas or things that you're thinking about, and the moment you hit the office, you forget about everything because now you're focusing on whatever the task is, and you get into your emails, and you get lost in your emails, and you get lost in the task, and that great idea you had is now lost. And so being able to kind of disconnect and unplug from your everyday, whether it's the office or your home, and being able to be in a setting that is just different, that's serene and peaceful, man, it just allows you to relax in a different way, but it also allows you to be more creative and allows you to kind of tap into this space. And I believe it's a spiritual thing. I believe you can actually hear better from the Lord when you don't have the distractions of everything happening around
you. You're able to just, if you're out in nature, if you're a nature person, like there's something about looking at the beauty of what God put here for us, there's just something about that, and being able to connect with Him. God, thank you for this beautiful sunrise, or this beautiful sunset, or maybe you're hearing a bird that you've never heard before. Maybe you're hearing sounds that the running of water, it's just the simple things that we sometimes don't get a chance to take advantage of being in our tasks, every day. It's a blessing. And the other part is, hey, I get to look at my spouse and just in a way that I may not have had time, it's not allowed, made time for. So I love you. Like it gives you the opportunity. It gives couples the opportunity to be able to absorb each other's presence.
To be present.
To be present
in the moment.
To soak it in.
You kind of mentioned this earlier, but I know you were talking about kind of the focus that we have when we're younger, 20s, 30s, et cetera, versus sort of the focus that we have as we get older. And I do think there's something to that where the younger mindset is more about proving yourself and success and things like that. Whereas when we get older, like you mentioned a couple of times, it really becomes more about legacy or stewardship of what we have been given. We're not, if you're healthy as you're growing, especially spiritually, hopefully you're not striving as much. Your identity is more wrapped up in who you are in Christ versus, what people say or think or your job or whatever. And so how do you help coach those older couples about that? Is that something you have to sort of model for them or lay out for them? Because I can imagine, even though they may feel it, they may not have good language for it. So how do you walk them through something like that to help them think about stewardship and legacy?
Yeah, in terms of, really, it sounds like what you're speaking to, I would say it sounds like more of just being secure in the season that you're in, and secure and who you are in Christ. And I think that's where it begins, whether you're in your, 50s or whether you're in your 20s, being secure in who God has created you to be first is obviously most important. But then getting into that season of life where, like you said, a lot of people think, well, now it's retirement. Now I just got to kind of, relax and pull back. And it's like, well, no, like you don't have to. Actually, you can be more productive in this season than maybe you even were in the seasons before. So I would think really encouraging people that you still have more to give. There's more to take. In fact, I would even say it like this. There are younger people who need you. There are people who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s who desperately need, and we use the word mentor, but just need someone to kind of look to go, hey, how did y'all make this work? Like, how did you stay married and in love, with kids and bills and all of these things? And so there's a very real place for people in their 50s and 60s and 70s. And I think really just helping them to really understand that in our world, we probably don't do as good of a job as we could of making that clear and creating that space. I
think there was a time where that was a big, you look up to the seasoned people who are more seasoned, and now I think you're right. You would kind of have gotten away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think really just verbalizing the need. Hey, there's a need for you in this season, and there's places that you can step into, and you have an experience and an expertise in a way that we don't, because we haven't quite lived it all out yet. And so I think really just encouraging people that there's a place for them is super helpful.
I think it also kind of goes back to like I think culture says we have to retire when we're a certain age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's nowhere
in scripture
where the Lord says, okay, when you get to your 60s, you're
That's
done.
right.
Yeah.
He does not say that, like, go to the ends of the earth to spread the gospel. Like, that's our mission, right? Yeah. And so whatever that assignment is, I think it's very important to always be in tune with where the Lord is shifting us to. I talked about a little bit about midlife crisis. Some people have this midlife crisis, and it's just I think it's one of those things where you shift your mind and you think, well, what am I afraid of? We really don't have anything to be afraid of, because we are children of the King, and he's given us this assignment, and our assignments will look different in different seasons of our lives, but also I think it's important for us to tap into our spiritual gifts as well. Our spiritual gifts are really, really important. And I like to think of it as this way. Sometimes when we have a hard time with change, I wonder if it's that, if that equates to God's just trying to show us some of the gifts that we have not utilized as much as the other ones that we're comfortable with. And so we get like, we kind of get a little bit of, we hold our breath a little bit because I don't know what's next. Yeah. But he's gently trying to guide us there. And so if we just think about what gifts do you want to highlight right now in my life, Lord? And then that could even open up the door for us to have more targeted prayers towards what the next assignment is.
Yeah. And also I think there's a very real challenge as we get older to resist change and to feel like, well, I can't learn any, the technology stuff, man, that's a young man's game, right? So I would encourage, people as you're getting into your 50s and your 60s and even your 70s, just to do your job to stay sharp, to do your job to stay learning, reading, learning new things. I mean, a study recently talked about how once you learn a new idea, it expands your mind more and more. So every new idea you learn, your capacity to learn expands more and more and more. And so I would encourage, as people are aging, to not just allow things to pass them by and say, I can't do that. I'm too old to do that. Now you can do whatever you put your mind to. There are people in their 80s and 90s going back to get college degrees. Yeah. And so I would encourage, if there's anything you've ever even dreamed of, hey, don't be afraid to explore it. It's never too late to learn something new. And it's never too late, to really turn over a new leaf and to go on an adventure. Hey, this life is supposed to be an adventure. It's supposed to be an adventure of learning and an adventure of exploring. And it's an adventure of really just making great connections with other people. And so I would encourage, people in their 50s and their 60s and 70s, continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to be open to change, and continue to be the person that says, I'm going to try that. Never been skydiving, I'm going to try that. Never been hot air ballooning. Like, let's try it, right? Be adventurous for life. I think that's one of the things that the Lord has put on the inside of all of us. There's some sense of adventure in all of us. Now, for some of us, it's probably a little bit more, on one end than the other. But everybody has a part of them that just is curious about things and wants to adventure and learn and explore. And the Lord put that there. So I would just encourage people to lean into whatever that is and whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And even with, sometimes we have these dreams in our hearts, or something that we believe the Lord has spoken to us about our future. Well, just because you're in your 50s or 60s doesn't mean that that's not possible. Now, it may not unfold the way we thought it would unfold, but let's just think about God's track record, right? Let's just think about the way that he's done some things in the past. Let's not forget that he's faithful. Let's not forget that he brought those things to pass. And the way that he did something one time doesn't mean he's going to do it the same way the next time, right? And so let's just keep our hearts open and hopeful and open with expectancy and excitement about like, how's he going to do this time?
Yeah.
Right? Because it may not look the exact same way.
Yeah. Something we encourage couples to do is actually to make a bucket list together. You'd be surprised, Mark, how many people have heard about bucket lists, but have never actually done a bucket list. And just through our personal experience, it's such a wonderful thing to just talk and dream and go, what if? And so I have a personal bucket list, but she has a personal bucket list. And then we have a bucket list of just places we want to travel to together. And it keeps us in a place of, hey, what if? What if God could do this thing? And we've been able to scratch off some things on the bucket list. Honestly, one or two things I never even thought the Lord. It's not that I didn't think the Lord would do it. I didn't think it would happen. And I knew that, okay, this would only happen if God just made a miracle. And honestly, one or two of those things have actually happened. And so it becomes a way of exercising your faith and stretching your faith and really, creating this past with God of, man, if he did that, then he can do this too, And so I would encourage people to dream and just, put a bucket list together. And it doesn't have to be long. It could be just 3 or 4 things, but just a few things that you're like, man, I wish that I could do this in life, or I wish I could experience this in life. Just some things to dream about. And you just never know. Let's just see. Let's just see what the Lord can do. Well, yeah. Remember we talked about that extreme shark diving.
I would imagine a lot of couples would get into that exercise and actually find out that there's things about each other they didn't know. Like, I didn't know you wanted to do that, or I didn't, and I wonder sometimes how much, as people are moving, as they're getting older and dealing with these kind of things, when you talk about moving into new seasons and stuff, I think a part that we miss sometimes is that to move into something new, you have to let something old go. Oh, yeah. And I think the releasing of things can be a big barrier too, where people are trying to hold on to all of it. And it's like, you can't hold all of it. You have to, to grab this new thing, you have to let go of the old thing.
Yeah.
And so how often do you see that in couples as they're kind of processing and dealing with stuff, where it's like when you're kind of coaching them, mentoring them, encouraging them through the process, where it might come up that in order for them to turn and face a new possibility, they've got to let some things go of their past. Do you see that happen a lot?
Well, I'll speak from my experience as a pastor, and I see it most often with couples who have children that are either entering into the adult phase of life or are in that early adult phase of life, and have a hard time kind of letting them go and letting them, and they feel like, man, as a parent, I'm supposed to, be with them for the entirety of their life. And so I think it's important for people in that space of life to understand that, and you and I know this, that there's seasons for parenting. And so, when they're little, you're the CEO and president of their life, but as they get older, that dynamic starts to shift. And when they become adults, you're more like a consultant. They kind of bring you in as needed on things, right? They're kind of out doing their thing. And what I see often is that there are some parents who still want to be the president and CEO of their children's life, even when they're adults. And what that turns into is really, the time that I would have to be productive, the time that I would have to be able to focus on, some things that God has maybe birthing in my heart. I don't even feel like I can step into it because I'm still so tied to, managing and running, this other life over here.
Yeah. That's why it's important to get away, though. When you get away, that kind of going back to one of the questions you asked is, why is it important to get away? You kind of take a break from the things that are like super attached to you, and you're attached to it. And you get a chance to have conversations with a little bit more clarity. Right. And in those situations, I feel like when couples are able to get away, you're building something. And so when that change does come, you've kind of been talking about it a little bit. You've been preparing for it. You've allowed the Lord to prepare your heart for what is coming, whether it's direct or indirectly. You just kind of open yourself up for that when you get away often and you have these conversations about like vision retreats and things like that. So I think that's a huge part of it too. Yeah.
How often do you find you get a couple involved in this and they come and one of them is sort of like on board and thinking big and dreaming and excited about the future, and the other one is not? Does that happen often? And when it does, how do you help them through that?
I wouldn't say we've had a lot of that,
Yeah.
honestly. Most of the time, the couples are, both wanting to be there. Now, personality can be different. You can have, one person who's a lot more focused, a lot more dialed in and wanting to, hit everything. And you have the other person who's just kind of like, man, I'm just here to, hang, and so, the encouragement really
it's usually the husband, let's be honest, usually the husband. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the encouragement really is, finding a place where you guys can just agree, and so, maybe we don't hit everything, but we hit some things, and maybe we don't just show up just to have fun. We actually kind of lean in a little bit to some task stuff too. But really, again, at the end of it, it's just encouraging couples to get on the same page, to be connected, and to come to some agreements on some things. But for the most part, most couples that show up kind of understand what it is. They understand that
they kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah, that we're showing up
to
talk about, the rest of this year. We're showing up to plan. We're showing up, to come up with some vision. And so that's really a rare thing for us to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. When you've done it enough now, maybe give me a story or two of some fruit that you've seen on the backside after people have gone through the process. They've made some plans together. They've dreamed, they've had vision, they've prayed, and they've kind of dedicated that year to God, and they're really moving into it. What's been some fun stuff you've kind of heard on the backside of that, where they may have reported back to you, hey, so glad we did this because now this has changed, or this is different, or we handle this bump in the road differently than we would have. What's some fruit that you've seen from this process?
Yeah, we've heard back from some couples, and I think one of the ones that just sticks out to us is a couple that they had some rocky places in their marriage, but it caused them to dig deeper, and I mean really deep. Like they're going through counseling and walking through those hard times and those hard places together. So there were some things that were brought out in their session, and it just made them realize, like, hey, we really want to make sure that we are taking care of this area. And so that's been really great. But also the impact that it's making on their family, like their family's much closer because of this, because they've taken the time to sow into their marriage and to build it. And it's been really great to hear that. So we actually do still keep in contact with a lot of them these days. So
yeah, and there's another couple, a younger couple. They were probably like the youngest couple at our last at the retreat that we do when we talk about connections. And they kind of left, and I talked to the husband. The husband was just basically saying, man, I really appreciated just hearing the perspective of people who have been married a little longer than we have. And so for them, the connection, the information was great, but for them, the connection to other couples and the ability to just kind of hear from people who had lived out the situations and the scenarios that they, were just facing, for them, it was super helpful just to kind of have that. So we're grateful for the couples that have participated, and we're looking forward to even more couples participating. And we're believing that God is going to continue to give couples these moments where they can connect with each other, have fun together, but also kind of have these moments of realizing, oh, wait a minute, this is an area where we can dig a little deeper and grow a little bit.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I know a lot of people watching and listening are probably thinking like, man, this sounds like something I would love to do, something I would love to be a part of or learn from. So how can couples, if they're listening right now, like when is your next opportunity, and how could they kind of get in touch with you guys and find you guys online or whatever to talk about what's possible?
Yeah, sure. So the next one that we have coming up is in March. It's the third week of March. It's the week before spring break. And then we have another one coming up in July. So March 19th through 21st. That one's the vision planning. That's the vision retreat. And then we have a totally different retreat in July. It's called Cracking the Connection Code. And that's basically about, finding different ways to connect through every day. And so we kind of share some information with them about that. And so if people want to know, if you want to come to a retreat, the best way right now is to email us. And the email address is @marriages@gmail.com. So that's atmarriages@gmail.com. And the AT stands for Adventure Together. Okay.
And we'll put that in the show notes so people can find it if they don't remember just from hearing it. But
sure.
I think that's awesome. I hope you guys get some traffic from that. I can see people going, hey, this would be a really great thing to be part of for our marriage and for our future, for our family, like all the things you guys said. It sounds like there's a lot of fruit that comes from the effort and from getting away together. The last thing I'd love to ask you guys is, we ask all of our guests some version of this question. It's basically, for anybody who's listening, and again, most of our audience is older, because that's the whole point of what we're trying to do, is help people who are older. But if they feel like, I'm not sure what to do next. I thought I was done, but now I'm really encouraged to think that God might have something more for me. There might be something possible. I'm not sure what's next. What would you say to them, right now, to encourage them as pastors and as mentors in your ministry? How would you encourage them right now to move past that and see what God has for them?
Yeah, I would encourage people to first begin just by making time to really assess their heart and figure out what is in my heart. When I close my eyes and think about what would be fun to do, what pops up, what comes in my mind? Is there a passion? There's something stirring in my heart. Am I drawn to something? And if there's anything that you're drawn to, I would say explore it. Really pray and ask the Holy Spirit if there's something there, but explore it. And so I give you an example. If you've always thought about real estate in some way, and you've had a career somewhere else, and now you're not doing it anymore, and you're just trying to figure out, man, what do I need to do? Well, I would say, man, start just reading books on real estate, or start having conversations with people in real estate, just to kind of see, is this something that is for me? Oftentimes we have these ideas or these this passion, this excitement for something in our heart, and we just kind of discount it as, oh, that's just a hobby, and it's just a thing that I've just always kind of enjoyed. And really, it could be the Lord drawing you into a place of, this could be an assignment for you in this season that I'm going to use to not just bless you, but you can be a blessing to other people. You can help encourage other people and be an inspiration to other people. So I would just encourage people, start with whatever that little small spark is on the inside, whatever that seed is, whatever that idea is, start there and just start taking steps, just baby steps, but start taking some kind of step of learning, exploring, adventuring, and just kind of connecting with whatever that is.
Yeah. And just kind of going along with that, recognizing that the way that we sometimes rationalize and talk ourselves out of things is fear-based. And so just be okay if you recognize that, and pray the word over that, and pray the word over whatever that spark that Mychal was talking about that's in your heart, because there's something there. And maybe that's just the Lord to draw you out of the fear to the thing that he's wanting you to walk in.
Yeah. Flip the what if from what if it doesn't work to what if it did work.
What if it did? Yeah.
Let's just see what the Lord can do.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Man, you guys, it's been so great. Y'all have really shed some light on this, and I think people are going to be really encouraged by it and challenged to kind of rethink how they do this, whether it's at the beginning of a calendar year or halfway through a year, or whenever they can. And the thing is, I know the end of the year, beginning of the year seems like the right time to do these kind of things, but the truth is, it's always the right time to revisit and think about what's next. And God's not limited to January through December. So we can definitely think about that in a bigger way. And I know you have some people reach out who might be interested in your stuff too. So I just appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for being on here and for sharing your heart with us.
Thank you for having us, man. We're so grateful.
Yes.
Man, that was amazing. I hope you guys got as much out of that as I did. I love what they have to say and the intentionality that they're putting into that ministry. And as you can see in the show notes, if you check it out, they've got some opportunities coming up not that far away. And if you'd like to be part of that, you can reach out to them. And maybe this is something you'd like to do with your spouse, maybe get on one of these retreats and really dive into all the things that Mychal and Terri have to teach. I think it could be incredibly helpful. We're so excited about the episodes coming up in the near future. We've got a couple of really amazing things scheduled right now. We've got Benji Kelly, who's a pastor in North Carolina, who's recently planted a church in this sort of second phase of his life. Benji's a great friend. We have a hunting ministry in common that we go to. He's friends with my brother, and we've had a chance to do some work together. And he comes to Birmingham from time to time for some events at our church, at Church of the Highlands. And we just love Benji. And he's got some exciting things to talk about when it comes to vision and answering the call when God comes and knocks on your door, even north of 50, says, hey, I got something new for you to do. So you're really going to be encouraged by that. We've also got Richard Mobley on. You might remember Richard from one of our earliest episodes. So excited to have him back. Richard has a daily newsletter that he sends out to executives all over the world. And back in October, he shared one that really blew me away. They're all amazing, but there was this particular one that was really great and really kind of knocked me out. And I thought, man, this is something our people need to hear. And so he's going to be on soon to talk about that, and that's going to be amazing. So we've also got Joel and Nikki Murphy, and Joel and Nikki Murphy have a ministry called Revive Ireland, and we've had the benefit and the privilege really to go and be part of that through our church, through Highlands College, and then through their ministry, which all kind of work together and do some interesting things over in Ireland. And they made the decision to start this ministry around the age of 50 and have just made a huge pivot. They've really put all their life into it, their resources, they're dedicated to it. They take groups over constantly. And they're going to talk about how they do that, why they're doing it, how God kind of brought that to their attention. And they still have, he still has a full-time job, and they've got family, and they've got all the same things that we've all got, but they found a way to do something extraordinary. I think you're really going to be challenged by it, inspired by it, and that's coming up the next few weeks as well. Hey, make sure again to like, follow, subscribe on whatever channel, whatever platform you're engaging with us on, and let us know that you're part of it. And don't forget to go to ageoflions.com and get on our community list and see what's coming up. So excited that you're here today. I hope you got a lot out of it. Can't wait to see you next week. Have a good one.